squat like this, or do you possibly squat like this? As you can see in this squat, the feet on both sides are collapsing in. There's no arch support whatsoever. You also see the knees are collapsing, yes, and the hips are also internally rotating.
So is it the knee that's the real issue here? And how do we fix this? Let's dive in.
So if we go back to the squatting basics, what is the first thing that I taught you guys to do? It was to screw your feet into the ground, to start doing this little dance and engage your glutes. Now, what that's doing, my feet, yes, my arches are lifting, my knees are coming out, and that's all because my glutes are engaging. If I don't engage those glutes and I try to squat, of course my knees are going to cave in. Of course they are, because I have nothing working at my hip to properly align my knee. Those hip muscles that I just mentioned are super important for being able to stabilize ourselves on one leg. Think about even when you walk, you have to be on one leg when you take a step through for even just a brief second. So if you cannot stand on one leg without your pelvis going all haywire, then you need to practice that. Practice sucking in that glute muscle, getting your hips nice and level. Once you can do that, then you can continue to progress. What you're gonna do is you're gonna grab yourself a step, a box, a book, something to step on. Preferably start off with like 2 inches, and as you get better at this movement, you can increase that as you get stronger. Step up onto the box, have one foot on the edge, the other leg dangling off just like I'm doing. You're going to stabilize your pelvis, so put your hands on your pelvis, make sure that your hips are nice and stable. You're not going to be drifted one way or the other. And you're going to engage your arch, so make sure your foot is lifted. And now you're going to squat down, lower down like you're trying to touch the foot to the ground and come up. When I do that, notice my foot and my hip are searching for stability. And as long as my knee stays in line with my foot, I'm doing it correctly. What you should not see when you're doing this is you don't want to see your knee collapsing either on the way down, on the way up, or during the movement. You want that glute to be activated. The other thing that you want to make sure that you do is keep your hips level. A lot of people like to compensate by trying to tip like a little teapot and trying to touch their foot down. That's not what we want. We want to keep the hips level. We want that knee to bend, and we want that glute to activate, okay? Get yourself a band, any brand of band, and put it around your ankles or your feet. Now, this is one of my favorite hip strengthening exercises when done correctly. Now, with a band around my ankles, what I want to do is I want to push out against the band just a little bit, feel my glutes engage. I want to keep my feet straight, and I want to take a step to the side and back together, keeping resistance on the band. You notice when I step out, my foot stays pointing forward. It's not rotating out, it's pointing forward. And when I step back together, I'm not letting my ankles come back together. I'm keeping tension on the band. So again, that exercise, side, together, side, together. You can even go sideways, sideways, all the way down the length of your hallway if you want, and then back the other way. Really focusing on trying to keep our hips stable and not letting ourselves do this, because that's cheating. You want this muscle to work. Stay stable the entire time, side to side. Do this to strengthen your hips, and then go back and try your squat and see if you can turn on those glutes. And squat down, screwing the feet into the ground, keeping those knees driven outward the whole time, coming back up. Next week, we'll dive more into the hip and hip mobility and flexibility, so stay tuned. Whoo, my glutes are on fire.